Hi, and welcome to the latest episode of Innovation Deciphered. Today I'm joined by Tim Mole of Fosroc, and we've got a really great episode. We're going to learn a bit about Fosroc's innovation management process and how that works, with some examples of how taking dialogue with your clients can lead to the development of a new product which adds significant value to the client which you hadn't appreciated before. We're going to talk a little bit about culture and how the 3Ps of Fosroc work to enable technological integration and move the business forward. And finally, we're going to hear about where the future trends are in construction chemicals. So I really hope you enjoyed today's episode. Hi Tim, thanks for coming in today, and I'm sure our viewers are going to have a really great podcast today. But you've had, as I understand it, an unconventional start into this career. I know our viewers are always interested in the sort of human element. How did you end up doing what you're doing now?
Yeah, thanks Tim, thanks for inviting me in. I think it is slightly unconventional. I left school at the age of 17. Quite honestly, not too much to my name. And my father was an NHBC inspector at the time, and I suppose I kind of I was dragged towards the industry to start with. However, it didn't begin there. My first job was cleaning toilets at Jaguar Land Rover on an estate in Redditch, where I'm from, South Birmingham. And from there, I had a bit of a crossroads, probably 12-18 months after starting that, where I had the choice to work for a light bulb manufacturer in Redditch, Fosroc Lighting, or I had the opportunity to travel what felt like a long way away to Bromsgrove, which is actually about a 15-minute journey on the bus, to a company called Llewellyn Stone Care, who were a concrete repair contractor, part of the SCL group. That's where I first came across construction chemicals, and also first came across the contractors, the architects, the engineers, and the like, which were completely above my station at the time. So from there, I worked my way through forklift driver, loading trucks and Ford Transits with material, and I got the bug. I suddenly realised that actually, despite my background, there was something I could learn and embrace and engage with, and it stuck. And from there, I went on to work for a company called WT Burdens, who had a subsidiary called Adawall, a specialist construction chemicals arm that my background in Bromsgrove at the contractors had helped with. And that was from contractor to distribution, from Adawall onto Build Base, part of the Grafton group back in Redditch then. And then I got very fortunate in that one of the product groups I'd sold at the very beginning, Fosroc, the general sales manager, the role I now do, rang up, and he was interested in taking on an area sales manager covering the Midlands, selling Fosroc products, and it was a dream job, and it remains the dream job that I do today. It was actually spawned back in 1997 as I started.
Well, if you've still got the passion after 27 years,
100%.
That is a great place to be. Brilliant. So there we are.
Yep.
Fosroc, construction chemicals, a very well-known name. But let's sort of dig down a bit, because the podcast is about innovation. So what's the innovation story at Fosroc? How do you do your product development?
The practicalities are, there's a number of areas around the group. We're a global business, and there's a number of R&D facilities around the group that will pick up on ideas, be them existing products that we have that need an innovation to keep up with the trend. We are, after all, in an arms race with other people out there, and so that stems from two sides. We have the ability in-house to develop, But we've also got the industry itself that requires changes through product technology. Now that may be packaging, it may be from an environmental point of view, but the market demands speed, it demands return to service, it demands us as a market leader, a brand leader, with many popular brands, Fireflex and Renderock and Convextra, that are 40, 50 years old. So we have to ensure that we listen to the customer needs. It's very dangerous for us to sit in a room as a business and say, we think we should do this. The market tends to dictate where we're going towards and what we have to do. But the UK itself, as a sales and a technical team, just to drill into the specifics of it, we'll be looking out for product group development, specific products within the niche markets that we see we can develop into. And other areas that, quite frankly, we don't have the ability to be everywhere, so we focus very much around the specifics of infrastructure or other areas that we have a keen strategy in.
And is there a sort of a well-designed and documented process for taking an idea through, well, taking an idea and deciding whether it's a good one or not?
Absolutely, yeah. There's a number of stakeholders within both the regional and the further afield group. We have product group managers globally that would sort of waterfall ideas into the regional teams. And there's a lot of factions in there that we have to tick. There's a lot of boxes that we have to assure are aligned. So we almost think of it as 100 metres hurdles. Every hurdle has to be passed to ensure that product ends up. So it may start as a bit of a blue sky thinking, we do a bag, can we do a bottle? Or we do a roll, can we do a cementitious product? But at each step, we need to make sure, well, can we produce that? Can that actually be manufactured? Would it be a factored product? Who is the market we're looking to engage with? Who is already in there? What are the challenges that they face? Will we face the same challenges? So a good percentage of the products that start off at the first hurdle may fall at 2 or 3. Don't discount them, it may not be the right time. So they go back to the start and we may pick up on it in a few years. But yes, you're right, they need to pass a number of areas first before they become production. And that can be 2, 3, 4 years if we need industry accreditation. Or it can be fast-tracked a lot quicker than that. But there's a number of hurdles to pass first.
So that's fascinating. So you're saying typically it may take 2 to 4 years to go through this sort of pipeline or process of validation.
Yeah, and a product that started 18 months ago at the first hurdle is a very different product come the 6th or 7th, because it's evolved and innovated itself in that period, because the stakeholders that we look for aren't just internal. We look for the likes of National Highways or other people to give us feedback, because we are trying to solve the issue that they have rather than create an answer to a question that no one's actually asked yet. So yeah, we've examples of many a product that would have started off in one area and maybe developed totally to something else by the time it comes out, maybe 18, 24 months later.
Because it's been tested and prodded.
Yeah, because it's been tested and we're happy internally, but from the engineer's base, from the architect's base, whoever it is that's looking to specify it, will have given us feedback along the lines and said, that's great, but... And it's at that point that rather than go back to step 1, can we innovate and evolve that product to get over the 7th hurdle, or are we dropping back to the 2nd or 3rd? So it's a constant evolution of that product mix.
So, obviously it's very well structured. You've obviously been practicing it personally for 20 odd years. What's that leading on to? Have you got any case histories of a recent one? I know you've done something with the National Highways, Innovation.
Yeah, that's right. So the National Highways one was an interesting one. It was actually under the old Highways England when we had the development. We had an existing product called Fosroc, which in layman's terms was a concrete repair for a concrete slab. We had a meeting with Highways England, and it was a good meeting about their network at the time and what was happening. But one of the questions we posed, with the idea of being at hurdle number 1 of a new cementitious product, was what are the wider challenges and the biggest challenges that the industry face? And one of the ones that was very apparent was the return to service. The key return to service, how fast can we reopen roads? how fast can we ensure that projects not only stick to the spec, stick to the scope of times, but can we pull them forward a little bit? And out of those conversations, we had at step 1 or 2 an idea for a fast return to service product. But the bit we were really missing was the specifics, the granular detail. And the guys gave us that. On average, they would wait 5 days for concrete to be poured, for the moisture content to be less than 6%, which meant they could open up the carriageway to either have a waterproof coating go on top, hence the requirement for the moisture content to be low, to enable that bond. And that was a bit of a light bulb moment for us to take away from there. Well, that's the number one objective. Cost of product, selling price, application methods are one thing, but here we have Highways England at the time, the network, telling us that their biggest challenge was that return to service.
So taking that as an example, there's through that sort of dialogue with a major client, you really understood in that instance what value meant to them.
Yes, absolutely.
Getting the road back to an acceptable level as fast as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I mentioned earlier about the fact you can sometimes get to level 3 or 4 on those hurdles and go back to 2 or 1, or even at the beginning. This was one of those situations. We got an idea of a cementitious based product that would come to market, but in honesty, was it for the docks? Was it for railways? Was it? Well, we're not sure. It's fast. It'll do what it. But this was that rubber stamp. We now got a time scale. We know we wanted to beat 5 days. We know where we needed to test it. We knew the sort of approvals, the 1504 approval that we worked to in the concrete repairs. We wanted it to be R4 because that's a structural repair, because that means it can then be used on highways and the like.
Yeah.
So Patchrock 250 came out of a conversation, a 2-hour conversation in Birmingham with Highways England at the time around their biggest challenge. And that product grew up through the ranks and is a 4-hour, not 5-day, return to service, which enables contractors enables contractors to apply a product to their substrate, to their concrete road bases, and within 4 hours apply a waterproof membrane over the top of it. A product purely based on innovation from a lead from a stakeholder at Highways England.
So that's a real game changer.
Yeah.
Have you had any further feedback from Highways England about what the beneficial impact this has been on their on them?
And as the clients, they would obviously subcontract much of their work to tier 1s and tier 2s, and it's those tier 1s and tier 2s that we've been able to link into very closely and see the time savings that they're able to provide for the client. And obviously we're part of a far bigger chain. We may have sped the project up by a couple of 3 days, but there are other elements of it that may have slowed it down or caused a delay. Fine. But from our point of view, we're able to demonstrate purely that this product and this solution gives them as a contractor the tools to go to their clients and their stakeholder and suggest that savings can be made by using a change of product.
So I'm trying to think that there's obviously no one wants lanes closed on motorways or highways, but that's not the only linear asset I can think of where there might be time is very, very critical.
Yeah.
Didn't you do some work at Dublin Airport?
Yeah, so again, a similar product innovation came around a traditional airport runway sealant that we had. We had a range called NitroSeal, which had been in the business for 25-30 years plus, hot applied system with a cold applied version of it. And thanks to the work globally, that Fosroc identified a need for a product called Fireflex 555, which is a gun applied, lance applied system. And again, when it came to specification of both MOD works but also domestic airports, there was a clear case that speed is of the essence. This product was launched primarily for where it was designed to be used, unlike Patchrock. It was primarily launched for airports and runways. It has the relevant, the kerosene and the fuel resistance to it. But again, presenting this to the likes of Dublin Airport at the time, we were able to evidence that rather than having shutdowns during the day or in particular busy periods, this product could be applied at the right temperature overnight, enabling many linear meters to be applied overnight and giving them the opportunity to open back up in the morning and crack on without out downtime.
So that, I mean, obviously Dublin Airport got to have a serviceable runway,
Yeah.
and of course all the airlines, all the passengers, there's a big benefit there, isn't there?
Yeah, I think so, and I think where we like to work best is not to be seen. If we're seen, we're probably in somebody's way, in reality. So if we can not be seen and something is operational, as a manufacturer, as I say, as a small cog of a far wider demand, then we're on the right paths, and that product subsequently has been used in high levels of sea defence, where we're working tidal, and various other elements of infrastructure that have got time limits. We need to be in, we need to be out, and we don't want to be going back again. So the airport's kind of triggered that first step of, well, if it can be used there, we'll go and use it here. And that in essence is quite a story of many of our products. We design here, industry, contractors and other far cleverer people than us sit there and go, well actually that will do this. And we'll often go along with them and say, yeah, you're right, because they know their market better than we do when it comes to application demands of passing buildings and structures back on time.
But for Fosroc, what do you see what's the future trends in the construction chemicals segment?
Yeah.
Where's it going, and how's the politics around sustainability and what have you doing?
I think in the time that 1997, as I mentioned at the beginning, was the first sort of year I ventured in. I can't think of anything that's demanded more time, concentration and planning than sustainability in that period, for the right reasons. I think back to working as a contractor, that I can remember projects where sustainability was a tick in a box on a project. You know, are you sustainable? Are you making sure that environmentally you were doing the right thing? And it was part of a tick box exercise, dare I say it, but that was the reality. These days projects are won, tenders are won on demonstrating either carbon neutrality or carbon offset or certainly reduction, and that's probably the biggest change I've seen, and we have to be future proof as a business for that. We're currently going through a huge global change on our sustainability as a global footprint, and domestically we've already started that process to make sure that, you know, let's not beat around the bush. We're in an industry that creates a lot of product, we're in an industry that needs to be seen to be doing the right thing, but we're also under the challenge of returning projects quickly to service. So it's a balance act. We've recently launched our carbon neutral products, so we have 5 of our biggest selling, biggest specified products, one of which is Patchrock 250 that I mentioned earlier. So that enables people to have a choice. It enables engineers and specifiers to have a choice when it comes to being carbon neutral. But unlike most areas where we are seen as an expert, if it's waterproofing, we are an expert on BS 8102. If it's gas proofing, we know 8485 inside out. And for concrete repairs, it's 1504. We're looked at by people as an industry expert. Sustainability is slightly different, because whilst there's the targets for 2050 and other incoming targets to come, it's very much a learning process. And I think it's fair to say that we're on the journey. You never complete that journey. You're always looking to sort of develop and evolve. And we've been fortunate that we've got some good stakeholders and some good partners that we're working with, the likes of the CIHT, with the Chartered Institute of Highways and Transport, National Highways, who I've mentioned as well. So we're working with like-minded people to make sure that, again, going back to the products and the passing of the hurdles, what we are looking to do is in line. And past 2080, the carbon management in infrastructure and construction is an area that we're engaged with, and we're just ensuring that our footprint is correct, but it's also that balance of making sure it doesn't have an impact onto productivity and efficiencies on site as well. So yeah, we're on the path, and we'll be announcing a lot more over the coming months and years on that.
Tim, I'm going to stop you there. We could talk all, it's afternoon now, we could talk all afternoon. There's loads of subjects that we haven't covered, but look, that's been really terrific.
No problem.
So, to everyone who's been watching, I hope you've enjoyed that. It's an excellent episode, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye for now.